Right. Okay, yes, there's going to be a certain amount of this in the talk, which probably frightens lots of people, although I see a familiar face, I think, from Lugs, who might not be too frightened. Now I'm scared. So what I'm planning to do is create a WordPress website. I've forgotten where my camera is. I'll be looking all over the place at my screens. Destroy it and put it back again from the backup. So let's start from the beginning. Actually, let's start by introducing myself to whoever doesn't know who I am. My background is an IT geek, which is why I'm working with this level of backups. It keeps code out of WordPress, and it doesn't rely, like a lot of WordPress things, on people visiting the site to run the scripts. Now, if you've got a busy site, that's fine. Even a fairly quiet site, that's fine. So it's not an issue, but that's the way things like UpdraftPlus work. Yeah, I do IT support and poke around in the innards of computers. So let's find the window I was going to start with. Right, let's get rid of that one. This probably looks reasonably familiar. That's an UpdraftPlus backup, and you've got these sections that you ask it to back up. Your database, plugins, themes, uploads, and others, and you set it on a schedule, etc. So I'm going to take that out of the way and bring this in, and this is a directory where I've got some files that have been backed up to show you what you've got now. These ones are just sections of the folders. These are popping up within the directory structure of your WordPress directory. Sorry if I keep slipping between folders and directories, they're the same things. No, don't drag that bit. And then you have the database, which looks like that, which is lots of commands and data to recreate the database in a language called SQL, which is used by vast numbers of databases over the years, including MySQL. So what that graphical front end is doing is creating a few zip files with the critical directories, and this one, which is another form of compression of a single file with the commands to recreate the database. What I am doing is the same thing, using probably the same tools. I'm not using zip actually, but actually on the server without the need for the PHP and the WordPress. Now I've got a web browser somewhere, which is where, oh, what's that one again? Things start to get interesting. So I've got that website, which says forbidden at the moment because there is nothing there. It's an empty directory. I am now going to, all things being equal, use that one. Yes, there's a password there. I'm not worried about that because it's going to be created and deleted in no time flat, just for this demo. So that is the code in SQL to, I'm going to play with this if it works. create the database. Oh, can everybody see that on the background? With that, create the user, which is done by granting the privileges. So it seems to be fairly common with WordPress to be fairly lazy to say all privileges on the database WPP that I've just created. Can I clear the annotation? Ah, there we go. I've got stuff on the other side. That's better. That's your database. Quotes, slightly awkward syntax, only available from localhost, so you can't connect remotely in, identified by and password, and then you flush the privileges to make them available. So MySQL, log in with the user root and the password, which I will very carefully put in a minute. I was going to be on a demo server, and put that script in, which is just that list of commands. So let's get my password database. Oh, I wish I could have the window open. Right, don't paste yet. I'm still in annotation mode. Go away. That's better. So that's better. Security. My clipboard was cleared with the password. So that's created the database in MySQL. I won't worry about dropping in to show it there. And let's get the right, there we go. Dev2 is where it is. You'll see I've got a link left over for where I set things up to a directory called WordPress. I'm now going to create that. That's the one. And remember to do that. Oh, I can't type. And now you'll see this is not red because it is linked to the WordPress directory, which has got all the traditional WordPress PHP files. This is it, and you'll see that there's some numbers there. That's because the file that you download to create your WordPress has got all the wrong permissions. So I will change the ownership to the user that runs the web server for the WordPress directory, and just filter that down through. At which point, things being equal, and with the following wind, we have a WordPress installation which I can set up now. Hopefully that's the right password. No, it's not. that was the password. That was me rushing around to... Oh no, wrong clipboard. Right. I'll fill that in with what I had before. At which point, a brand new WordPress, which already needs updates. So, let's throw some updates in there. Right. And there we go. There's the WordPress website. What I am now going to do is the key purpose of the talk. I'm going to back it up if I get the right terminal. Right. This is the magic. I have a MySQL dump command, which will basically dump whichever database you tell it to once you've logged in with your credentials. That tells you where to put it. It's going to go out to this file, which is going to be in a backup directory. And this is some fun regular expressions to give it the date and time in the file name, so that if you run multiple ones without moving them out of the way, you don't overwrite them in old backups. So that's the database handled with this command. The -r is something I picked up recently. For those that know databases, MySQL now has stored procedures in it, which means it can have a bit of code to do things on certain events and conditions and so on. But the standard MySQL dump does not back those up. So the MySQL dump -r tells it to back that up. There's an element of needing permission to certain parts of the database, which I have got. I don't think that is needed for WordPress. Certainly I've been backing up and restoring WordPress without using it, but I did come across an instance when something I was working on that did have stored procedures in, and I hadn't lost them, but they weren't in the backup or in the file I created to migrate it somewhere else. So I investigated a bit, and I don't know whether some plugins might use stored procedures. So I've put that in there. And then this one, which is a tar, it's basically equivalent of a zip. If you look at the, let's quickly go back here. Backup options. Now, have I got settings? I can't remember where the setting is on this one, but there was, when you do a backup, it gives you the option. I'm sure it gave you the option to use, I might be thinking of PHPBB. It gives you the option to use zip or tar. I think I might be thinking of PHPBB, so probably not the best thing to do to mention something I just sort of went through my mind. Anyway, parameters: create, compressed, file name, putting it in the same place with the same year, month, day, hours, minutes, and file extension, which is the usual one for tar and gzipped files. And here is the directory. Now this is backing up absolutely everything. It's not being selective like the UpdraftPlus one was. It's just taking the whole directory, modifications, themes, everything, plugins, and backing it up. For those people that used to working with menus, and this looks a bit scary, it is to some extent. Obviously you've got to have access at this level, and you might not want to be working at this level if you're not comfortable, but you will find that the command line is sort of menus on steroids, because you don't have a selected set of choices. When you try and create a graphical user interface, you've got to think what everybody might want to do, what permutations of combinations there are for your commands. You can mix and match them from here. So I could create, I think it's a J for a different type of zip file, and this one will test it if you use a T instead of a C. So it's sort of like choosing the options you want, but typing them in as commands. So I shall now run that script. Don't think I typed that right. I didn't. Right, yep. Now, which password do I need? Back to my password database, which has locked itself. Right. That is something that the zipping or gzipping does. It removes the slash, which basically prevents you from destroying things when you extract it, because in a Linux file system, slash is right at the top. You don't have C drives, D drives, etc. You've just got everything under the root, which is slash. So if you extract it and it extracts from slash, it would go over the top of whatever was there. So by removing that, it goes to either wherever you put it by telling it in the command line, or to the directory that you're in, and creates everything from then on down, which you will see in a moment. But if I go to here, you will see the files that it has created, and I can look at this one, which is very much the same file as created by UpdraftPlus. The name went from my mind for a moment there. And that one, which that's interesting. That is not what it should be. That should have lots of, what did I change?
Does it need redirection, or is it just...
No, the directory you're reading from, Paul, is not the same as where you put it in the MySQL dump.
The dump is putting it into the backup directory. Wait a minute.
And the tar is reading it from your aptnet directory.
Yes, because the tar is actually taking a backup of the directory structure that is running the website, which is the other element of the backup. You've got the database grabbed from MySQL, and then you've got the file structure of the directory for the website. What I'm going to do I can't see that. That's behind something on my screen. I'm hoping that that... no, not that one. How about... You wouldn't believe that a matter of 15, 20 minutes, half an hour ago, I tested this and it was working. That's why you always check your backups. Ah, there we go. I think what happened there is that I was backing up the sim link, which you'll see in a moment. So let's get rid of that one. Right, now, there we go. That's backed up the directory structure of the website. So it's as you downloaded your WordPress site zip file from WordPress to create it, but it's got all the changes and modifications over time of plugins and so on. So it's doing pretty much exactly the same as WordPress is doing to give you the installation file. So there we still have a database and the directory structure of the website. I will... Herb, you're in the way. Why do things to do with screen share keep popping up over the top of what I'm trying to do? Right, there we go. What I am now going to do, part of this I think I will do off the screen. Let's put that back there. Is password. Oh, it's gone to the wrong screen again. Hang about. I've got a theory. That works. It goes to the active screen. Right. Right, here we go. I'm going to go into the database and there's our database. There was our database. We should now find, if we go here, it thinks there's no database, it's broken. And yeah, that's the WordPress directory. I'm going to get the password wrong yet again. Oh, Right, I've now absolutely obliterated the directory. So we should get the forbidden. So we're back to square one. And it now seems to be sensible to recover from this disaster. Ooh. And put everything back. So first thing I'm going to do, X instead of C, I'm going to extract the zip file. And you can see that I'm pointing, you can't see what I'm pointing at, it's as though I'm in the room. Here is var, which is the directory under which the web folders are kept. So you can see the structure. Now it would have gone straight back to where it was if that slash hadn't been removed, but we don't necessarily want that. This is safer. I'm going to why did that not auto? Oh. It didn't. I've done it again. Let's change my password so I can actually type it. Right, that is basically put the permissions back to what they were, filtered it down through. So if I go to this one, move that directory to here. The link here is not read again, so the directory is there. So we should find that it complains about the database. And that one. I'm in the wrong direction. Oh no. Right. If we look at this one, which is the database, we will see it's got instructions to drop the table if it exists and then create it. And then further down, so we're creating the structure and the database, and then there is the data. So
Need to create the database first.
yes, good point. I have a script for that. Let's get my password ready. Right, I've got the database. Oh, select which database I want to put it in. That would make a lot of sense. and it's back. And somewhere on here, let's just type it up here. It has all the updates and so on back in there exactly as it was. One thing you can do is right. Yeah, if you really want to, you can dive into the SQL, and up here you can see the site URL. So if you actually wanted to migrate to a different site, you could hunt through here for the references and change it and then load it up into a different base URL. You can also drop back into the WP config if you've given it a different database, so you can back up the database, put it back up, edit the WP config, and you know, if you're having a restructuring of your databases or moving it to a different server for the database, then you can edit things there. So there's a lot of flexibility there, but it's not necessarily for the faint-hearted, but it does show you what's going on under the covers.
What you can do that Paul hasn't mentioned is the next step is to then put the backup commands that you've got in the script into your cron job.
Yes.
So that it runs just after the scheduled backup to create, you know, or whatever.
Yes, I was to some extent avoiding that, given that got into the database administration. But yes, you are correct. Those scripts that I've got there can be put into a cron job, which is basically a service that runs on the server that runs scripts at a particular time and will obviously run the backup. That keeps it locally and doesn't get it off site, so you've got to work a way of then getting off the server if you want some sort of extra resilience. The other problem that you've got with the cron job here is that you're putting in the password. If you look in here, there is a file, mylogin.cnf, and that would allow you to put your login credentials securely in that it's accessible and decryptable, in this case by root. So it will grab the credentials from there, so you can then use that in a cron job. So if you're looking at doing that, then that's a direction to look into, creating that. The other thing that's worth doing in terms of automating, which caused me a few problems when I was trying to revamp this talk, was create a user that's got read-only access to your databases to do the backups from a single account rather than using the credentials of each user. So you go in the way that you created the databases when you set up your site and create a user with read-only, so grant different set of privileges to that user. That confused me earlier because I was logging in using that mylogin.cnf file and looking for the database of one of my sites that I was going to use in the demonstration, and it wasn't there, but the site was working. It dawned on me that I was logging as the backup user, and the backup user does not have permissions to access that database. So that's not a problem, because I was going to be using a test and development site that really doesn't need backing up yet. But yeah, permissions is a fun thing. So yeah, cron jobs and my setup for those technical, I've got a cron job on the server which runs the backups. I'm a little short on space at the moment, so because I've got another database with lots of photographs in it for a site. So I run the backups from one cron job, and then to get them off, I've got a cron job on a server locally on my computer, which mounts the directory over SSH using SSHFS file system, moves them across into a local directory, and then drops the connection. So that's sort of a technical level that your average hosting provider might work with, but your average website developer possibly doesn't want to work that level, unless you're a geek like me. Any questions? Has that gone at a level that people have gone ah, and run away, fallen asleep? Shall I stop sharing my screen, and or shall I hold on to the sharing in case there's questions that I might need to demonstrate something?
You're probably okay. What Nikki said, have a look in the chat.
Oh, chat, I've forgotten the chat.
Are you demonstrating something we need to do in SQL ourselves? Is the question from Nikki. The reply was only if you want to.
Yes, if you want to work at this level, and if you've got this level of access to your server, then it is one option for backing up that is an alternative to something like UpdraftPlus. It is more complex and you work at the server, so you don't, the reason I like it is because I'm geeky, I work at the server level, I can drop it into my backups to back up PHPB, Pirigo, other websites, because I'm backing up the database and the website directories, and it doesn't matter what website I've got there, and it's a single backup process. If you're just backing up WordPress, particularly if you want to drop it into a different, say, Dropbox or Google Drive or something for a customer, then this probably isn't necessarily the way to go, but you do need access to the server at this level, which is possibly unusual with hosting providers. If you're using a VPS, you do. If you're using a shared hosting or WordPress hosting, then you probably don't. So at that level, it's more of a, this is what's going on under the hood type talk.
I use a sort of halfway house. I use UpdraftPlus to create the backup files. Then I use the cron job to put it all together into one file on a different drive.
Yeah. And
to tidy up the UpdraftPlus backups, because they don't self-tidy up. Because they're time-stamped.
Yes.
You get one set of files for every time UpdraftPlus runs.
Yes.
But doesn't UpdraftPlus have a cycle then?
Yes. Oh, I can have it on that one. Think about this one. There is an option so that this is automated and I don't do anything with it, and it keeps the last 4 backups and it deletes them. But obviously if you're moving them out through a cron job, it's not going to touch them until it runs out on this timing structure. But it does delete the older ones if you want it to.
Yes, I haven't looked at it since, but I put the tidy up into the cron job.
Yeah.
If the cron job works, I delete the file.
Yeah, there we go. Weekly, and you keep the backups.
Yeah.
4 of them. So that I don't know when that came in, to be honest.
But that was the easiest thing to do, rather than messing around with some of the other commands that you've been doing with the database.
Yes.
Because I don't use MySQL, I use the other one.
Oh, Postgre.
No,
Maria.
Oh, Maria.
Maria.
Ah. I think MySQL dump works.
Yeah, it's the same commands.
They've not renamed the commands that I'm aware of yet.
No.
No. But yeah, it works for me because it fits in with the other backups that I've got on my website. So although, as you can see, on some cases I use UpdraftPlus as well.
Right, well, thank you very much, Paul, for showing us that. Have you used any other backup things apart from UpdraftPlus, from the WordPress plugins?
I haven't, no.
Remember we had a talk by